All right, let's dive right into this explainer. Today we're talking about how our evening habits impact our cardiovascular health, especially after we hit that big milestone age of 50. We're going to uncover something that doctors rarely have the time to sit down and actually break down for you: the direct connection between the foods you eat right before bed and the long-term health of your absolute most vital pathways. Yep, we're talking about your arteries.
So, tell me if this sounds familiar. Have you ever gone to bed feeling totally fine, only to wake up the next morning feeling incredibly tired, sluggish, or maybe even noticing that your hands and feet are all swollen? Just picture waking up feeling puffy and exhausted. It's an incredibly common issue, and honestly, most people just brush it off. They blame it entirely on the natural aging process, like, oh, I'm just getting older. But what if the real culprit is actually sitting right there on your dinner plate?
Section 1. The unseen nighttime threat and how our arteries change over time. You see, it's this critical window of time, those last few hours before bed, that is constantly overlooked in our daily routines. Now, arteries don't just suddenly clog overnight. It's actually a lot like household plumbing. When the plumbing is brand new, water flows freely, right? The walls are completely clear. But over decades and decades of meals, tiny deposits begin to stick to those inside walls, just little by little. The opening slowly narrows down, and suddenly your blood is forced to work much harder just to get through. And here's the thing about turning 50. There's a compounding biological effect happening inside your body. It's like the rules of the game suddenly change. Your metabolism slows down, meaning your muscles are burning fewer calories. Your insulin sensitivity takes a dip, and your blood pressure, well, that becomes significantly harder to control. Throw in some natural changes to how your body metabolizes cholesterol and a slight bump in chronic inflammation, and you've got yourself a perfect storm. Because of all this, your evening meals matter way more now than they ever did in your 20s. Think about what sleep is actually designed to do for us. While you're knocked out, your body is supposed to be hard at work repairing tissues, balancing out your hormones, and this is absolutely crucial: resting your cardiovascular system. But if your digestion is completely overloaded with heavy, unhealthy foods at night, that whole repair process gets hijacked. Your heart ends up spending the entire night working overtime to process that heavy meal instead of getting the rest and rejuvenation it desperately needs.
And like I mentioned, this damage is a slow burn. Plaque development doesn't happen in a day. It's a slow accumulation over a lifetime. Year after year, you're constantly adding variables to the mix. Things like inflammation, blood sugar spikes, excess saturated fat, and poor sleep. Over decades, those tiny little deposits stick firmly to the inside of your arteries. And then, bam, after age 50, your vulnerability peaks right alongside those natural biological changes we just talked about. Now, before we point any fingers at specific foods that mess with this delicate nighttime balance, let me be crystal clear about something. We aren't blaming a single isolated meal. Heart disease develops from your overall eating patterns, your genetics, your activity levels, your sleep quality, stress, the whole shebang. It's really about the big picture. But minimizing specific nighttime triggers, that is a fantastic place to start taking control.
Section 2. Culprit 1. Processed meats, or what I like to call the late-night convenience trap. We're talking about the usual suspects here: ham sandwiches, hot dogs, pepperoni pizza, sausages, bacon, and cold cuts. Millions of us eat these almost every single night because, frankly, we think they're relatively harmless. I get it, they're filling and they seem absolutely perfect for a quick, easy evening meal when you're just too tired to cook. But here's the catch. They contain a dangerous combination that your blood vessels literally cannot stand. Let's break down exactly what makes up this threat.
Processed meats deliver a really heavy combo of high sodium, saturated fat, and harsh preservatives like nitrates or nitrites. When you eat a few slices of this stuff right before bed, you have to remember that your digestion keeps running while you're trying to sleep. Your poor body is forced to spend hours processing all this excess salt and saturated fat in the dark. And honestly, that is exactly why you might wake up feeling thirsty, puffy, or just unusually exhausted. It sets off this dangerous chain reaction. First, you take in a huge hit of sodium from those processed meats. As a result, your blood pressure shoots up, which places all this extra unnecessary stress right onto your delicate artery walls. And ultimately, over the years, those damaged walls become the perfect, easy places for plaque to take hold and grow.
To put this into perspective, let's look at a real-life example from the research. Meet John. He's 67 years old. John simply swapped out his nightly sausage sandwich habit for a much lighter meal. Think grilled chicken, hummus, some vegetables, and whole grain crackers, just a few nights a week. Now, did one single sausage sandwich clog his arteries? Of course not. But swapping out that long-term habit very possibly supported much better cardiovascular health for him. Over the following months, he saw a demonstrable improvement in his energy levels and his blood pressure.
Section 3. Culprit 2. Sugary desserts. The sweet relaxation myth. You know exactly what I'm talking about here. Ice cream, cookies, cakes, sweet pastries, chocolate bars, and oh yeah, even that innocent-looking bowl of sugary breakfast cereal you eat as a late-night snack. So many of us reach for a big bowl of ice cream or cereal at night thinking, you know what, I'm just eating something sweet because it helps me wind down and relax before bed.
Unfortunately, the evidence tells a very different story. Consuming large amounts of added sugar right before you go to sleep kicks off a highly detrimental chain reaction in your resting body. Instead of relaxing your system, that massive influx of sugar actually causes spikes in your blood sugar and can trigger inflammation, right at the exact moment your cardiovascular system is desperately trying to power down and repair itself for tomorrow. You are essentially throwing a giant wrench into your body's overnight maintenance routine.
Section 4. Changing habits for heart health and how to protect your arteries while you sleep.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final question to think about. Are you going to keep blaming your age for that morning sluggishness and puffiness, or are you ready to take control of what sits on your dinner plate tonight? Look, the main takeaway here isn't to be afraid of food. It's about empowerment. Replacing foods that are high in saturated fats and excess sugars with healthier alternatives is strongly associated with improved heart health. Changing a long-term habit is an incredibly powerful thing. You literally have the power to protect your arteries and wake up feeling energized, simply by rethinking those late-night cravings. The choice is completely yours, and I promise you, your heart will thank you for it.